I'm Chris, I like to paint things, and today we're going to be looking at Grotten, One Bit Deeper. Grotten is a one-bit dark fantasy dungeon crawling RPG where you descend into a dungeon and fight a bunch of monsters and a boss. The art style is amazing, it's super dark pixelated fantasy, and it's made by some dude named Suznaut, which reminds me of Supernaut, my favorite Black Sabbath song, from an album made mostly with. I found Grotten while watching some YouTube videos, actually the YouTube channel Mystery Quest. If you don't know Mystery Quest, I've been watching the Yogscast for like over 10 years. Probably some of the best RPG content. I don't watch a lot of D&D stuff, but I do watch Mystery Quest. In Grotten, you take an adventurer, you build a dungeon with little tiles that you flip over, and at each tile you roll some dice and different stuff happens. There's monsters and that sort of thing. It's any dungeon crawler, but it's solo and it's a vibe. Grotten comes with 5 characters. I'm going to kind of combine 2 of them for my project today, but I had the idea to use actual miniatures rather than these little cards. They were kind of difficult to use on the mat. I know you can stand them up, but you know what? I bought some cheap miniatures, and I think that just adds a little bit of, I don't know, it's a miniatures painting channel. We're going to paint some miniatures. Today we're going to take some super cheap Reaper Bones miniatures and paint them up in 1-bit style. Considering that Grotten was honestly a very inexpensive game, I thought it would be really silly to spend a bunch of money on miniatures for it. So I did what any good painter does when they don't want to spend a bunch of money. I bought some Reaper Bones minis. Each of these minis was like $4, so what, $16 plus the game. This is like a $30 board game set at this point. The detail in Reaper is exactly what you get for $4. It is very, very cool. But you know, they're not like some high quality Games Workshop minis, which I have been working with a lot lately and have been enjoying. As a thrifty wargamer, I tend to buy a lot of Reaper Bones minis, but they do have a few issues. Plastic isn't my favorite to work with, and they always have mold lines. They're a little flat because they're, you know, essentially just a cast mold of some, I don't know if it's PVC, some kind of lower quality plastic. But they clean up just the same. Something you don't get enough from Reaper Minis, honestly, is actually putting them together. So this knight was kind of fun because it came with 2 weapon options and 2 head options. Obviously, fancy knight, we're going to go with fancy sword, and we're going to go with a helmet to kind of try and match the art. These aren't going to be one-to-one, obviously, but I think they're pretty good interpretations. And it actually came with some extra bits. Ignore the finger that I somehow cut while working with this plastic. Be careful. Reaper plastic is not the easiest thing to work with. And as I out of focus assemble this model, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill. Pretty nice though. And now with our miniatures assembled, that's stupid. Now with our miniatures assembled, it's time to start painting. Like I said, we're going to paint in a 1-bit style. I'll tell you what that means in a sec. So while I was concocting this idea, I was a little tempted to just spray them black and dry brush them white. That would be extremely easy, and I love dry brushing. But that didn't feel like the spirit of this painting challenge style, I don't know. I'm basically going to take dark paint and highlight all the way up to light paint. The easiest way to do this is to actually use real light to determine where your shadows are and determine where your highlights are. So first I've said it before, I love edge highlighting and I hate base coating. So for this, I kind of thought, let's just do some like chunky brush strokes over most of the top, leaving just the very deep recesses as like fully black. I wanted to kind of get the shapes out, and then we can go from highlighting from there and worrying about our light source. The easiest way to do that, honestly, was to shut the lights out. If you shine a light in the direction you want the light source to come from, take a picture of that, and then I use this as a bit of a reference of where the strongest highlight should be, and even where the shadows are going to end up when I do glaze in some shadows later. Now again, this is not one bit, because technically one bit, I guess, would be just painting thin layers of white on top of black or something. So this is still 2 paints. And there's not a whole lot I can say. Imagine you were just base coating and then doing some highlights, never chucking a wash on there, and you only did one color for the entire model. I don't know. I don't know why I thought this was a cool idea. I just, something that really helped with this process too was actually going back and glazing shadows back in. So as much as it was helpful to do bright highlights, it was also very important to bring back the contrast in the shadows. And now, compare that to just a black miniature, I think that looks pretty cool, actually. I did this and I was like, wow, I think I can do this. I think I'm not the world's worst painter. So I did do the majority of this with some Vallejo colors, and I understand that there's some controversy around Vallejo right now. I'm not going to get into that. This is what I have, and I really liked the paints when I bought them. We'll see what I buy next. I then started taking this color, not straight from the pot, and this is an off-white. It's like an ivory cream white. I took it and I got it just a tinge of gray in there, and I worked on really sketchy fabric-y highlights, because now you need to create texture, right? Obviously this model, I'm not painting in different colors to show what different things are, so I need to create textures. And then I thought, to really then accentuate everything and break up all the shapes, I did a very, very fine highlight on the entire miniature, kind of ignoring the light to dark ratio and just doing solid edge highlighting. And with that done, oh my god, I actually impressed myself with this miniature, which is not a thing I do a lot. Are you following me? On to the next one. With our thief painted, it was then time to paint our wizard. And what color are wizards, ladies and gentlemen? Wizards are blue. So I'm going to use the exact same process as before, just starting with a dark blue base coat and working all the way up to this wolf gray. Wolf gray is not going to be bright enough on its own for our extreme highlights, so we do use 3 paints on this model, which is going to be running theme. But same process. I'm not going to beleaguer it. Let's go. So after feeling very comfortable with this style, the highlighting up to blue came out really nicely, I decided to challenge myself. Originally, I was going to challenge myself by trying to work in different colors using the same process, like green or orange, or even this burnt orange color, something that would work and that they would all look cohesive as a unit. But the knight has a problem. The knight is very metallic, and the wizard and thief obviously are just robes. They were easy. So today I'm going to attempt my first non-metallic metal, and you're going to watch me struggle together. Does that sound fun? Does everyone want to watch Chris struggle at learning non-metallic metal? I sure didn't. If I learned anything from this project, it's one, I just really love edge highlighting. It's two, this is frickin' hard. So non-metallic metal, if you don't know, is essentially what it sounds like. You use regular non-metallic paints to try and create a metallic transition or glow, and I did not do good at all the first time. The move that I figured out with just doing this shoulder pad, elbow pad rather, which took 20 minutes by the way, is you have to take chunks. You have to divide this into sections of solid color blocks and figure out how the heck you blend those back together. I don't even have a wet palette, so I'm doing this all with a dry palette, and I think this is my call to get a wet palette. It's very tough to do, and it's even tougher to film, and my eye is not amazing yet at figuring out gradients. But I think this was better. Attempt 2, the color blocks are chunky and very obvious, but when I threw an edge highlighter around the whole thing and tied it together, it's not traditional non-metallic metal, but it's a gradient. It works. It's got a sharp highlight at the top. It's got a darker thing at the bottom. It's got a sheen to catch your eye. It's okay. Now this took a long time. That shoulder pad, I don't know. This was like an hour to get this far. And I hate painting miniatures slowly unless I enjoy painting them in general. And this is not a style I like, but it was actually very fun, and I don't think I've really tested myself in a while. And then I was able to treat myself by just going back and blocking out all the other colors like I did with the other two heroes. So we're just going to do general progressive highlights up to solid white, which I think worked better for the night than using a weird color like orange or green. And Moxie was there to cheer me along the entire way. Isn't that right, Moxie? Sure is. She's very fat. At this point, not a whole lot to say. Again, this is just the same process as before. But, man, I just love edge highlight, especially with white. The white, I'm using Pro Acryl titanium white or whatever their pure white is. And it is the best white in my arsenal. And it really, really sells those hard edges. And it brings the whole model together. Then I realized I have to do the sword as well. And, oh god. I would not recommend doing this technique ever. I didn't even want to film it. I even skipped filming the armor, which is why I showed you a picture instead of how I filmed and painted all of the armor. Look at how bad that is. Oh my god, guys, who does this for fun? Non-metallic metal, seriously. And I don't mind painting a power sword, but usually I use like tips and tricks to paint a power sword. It was okay. I don't know, it was one of those things you have to put down and say, this is good enough for what I'm doing today, and if I paint any more, I'm just gonna go crazy. And finally, the last intrepid explorer of the Grotten that we need to paint is the Wood Elf. There is no Wood Elf in the box set, it's mostly just like a dude with a bow and arrow, but I thought this model was very cool, and it's kind of a culmination of all of the things from the rest of the kit. It's got metallics, and it's got cloth, and it's got hair, and I decided to paint it green. I really enjoyed this process. I really like the way the elf came out. It's the most stark and vibrant of all of them, but it's a vibe. I could paint maybe a Space Marine or something like that. Regardless, after all that work, I ended up with this. Well, that's it from me. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Do the liking and commenting and subscribing and all that nonsense if you are into it and you like what I do. I enjoyed doing this video. It was a nice challenge for me, a change of pace, a departure from normal. I talked about a game that should honestly get a little bit more coverage, and I'm definitely going to throw a link down in the description if you want to get yourself a copy. It's not an affiliate link. I just think it's a really good game, and I hope Susanot, who made it, does very well off the back of it. What other style painting should I try? Give me a game with a vibe, and I'd love to try a new style. Monochromatic, this was fun. I'll never probably paint some miniatures like it again, but it taught me a lot about highlighting and the process. So yeah, do that. Tell me a cool style to look at, and I'll look at it. I gotcha. So I've been Chris. I like to paint things. Once again, I'll see you around when I see you around. Next video is going to be a Leviathan Dreadnought. So that's a little hint for you who actually made it to the end of the video. And I'm going to thank all of you for that. I'll let you know when the time comes. I've been Chris. I like to paint things, and take it easy.